that one fell out. Feels like the correct choice. A book with a yellow cover. Ooh! Kingdom of the Wicked by Terry Scargo. Oh my god. The premise is 2 sisters, 1 murder, a quest for vengeance that will unleash hell itself. Okay. I have the rest of the series here with me. I have this book that I want to finish before any of the book of the month. Hey everyone, I finally finished this book! I'm so happy. It was gripping. There was nothing I could do. I just read through this one in one day. It was the book of the month, and finally I got a book of the month that I actually liked. I loved this one. Except the very ending, because there's something about it that I'm like icky about. But the whole story was so gripping. The premise is there are 2 twin witches in Sicily, in Palermo, and one of them gets killed, and this unveils a whole mess between the natural world and the world of evil. The fantasy was great. It was set in Italy, and Italy is my place. And I am just so thrilled that I read it. And because I buy series without having read the first book, I bought book 2 and book 3 of the series. So now I want to read a few chapters of book number 2, even though it's late, because I'm so excited. The characters, God, the Prince of Wrath. Oh, that is a man that I would fall for. He is deceiving, he has all of the problems that you can stick with him, but isn't he charming? My man is clipped, doesn't speak much. When he speaks, he's really secure. I loved it. I really found my boyfriend in the representation of the Princess of Wrath, except the seat, but that comes with the plot. The cover said it all, but the whole unveiling of the plot was magical in the best possible way. There are secrets, there are codes to unveil. The princes of hell are one worse than the other, Wrath being top-notch worse, but I don't believe he is. He just started on such a good note, and we cannot have him be such a garbage. But the final ending left me a bit, we wanted to see that marriage go through. They were already married. Well, there's a coupling that I didn't understand, but the twists and turns were great, and the whole mysteries that we come to unveil are great, but I feel that we didn't get as many answers in this book as we would have wanted. So book 2 is for the answers that we didn't get from book 1. And the whole description of the food was amazing, because it's Italy, of course, and the food is everything. The landscape, the side characters, as in the nonna. Oh my god, I loved her. She's so powerful, so ancient, but in the best of ways. It really made me think about my nonna and how much I loved her so much. She has died unfortunately now, but she was the best for me, and I found my nonna is that nonna. She's great, and the Italian family was great, and the whole intrigue within the city was great as well, and it really made me think about Italy as a setting for witchcraft and wizardry, because there's so much Gothic folklore in Italy that it's insane how little we have about it, because this needed to be created. It's here. I'm so happy I read it, and I have no words. It was the first time. Normally I hate sex scenes in books. I just think they are put there for no reason at all, and they just disrupt from the main plot. They don't add anything. They are just an additional something, and they are too graphic, not likable. Didn't like them at all. So in here, the spice that we get was absolutely adequate, and it made me fall in love with the Prince of Wrath. But there was one instance in the review that I have on the Dave of Dad series. I fell in love in book 1 with Dara, and at the end of the day she goes for someone else, And I'm like, oh, it's an ick, because I would have loved them to be together, even though there's differences, he's a demon and whatever else. But you know, you set it up for such a great thing and then it doesn't happen. So here we have a whole setup and then it doesn't happen. So I'm still hoping for book 2 and 3 to salvage a relationship. And I'm just saying, yes, of course it's a toxic relationship because he's such an ass, but she also is. She's such a strong female main character. She's smart and she is very selfish as well, so that doesn't make her good either. She has really good motivations, but at the end of the day she's very mean herself, so it doesn't make me feel bad, and it kind of makes me feel match made in heaven. Writing is simple, but in a way that it makes it super readable, so it's super nice. There is a good balance between short chapters and longer chapters, which also made it very, very readable. I liked how it's all shaped, because the beginning of each chapter has an illustration. It's quite short. It has a really beautiful font at the beginning of the chapter, and overall I'm so glad that I've read this. And yeah, I'm gonna go on and forth with the rest of the series because I cannot hold myself. I need to know it. But first we need to pick the book for the next month. We all know how excited I am always about picking the new book. It's always a nice experience to get a book out of my library that I'm really excited about. Oh, whatever. Let's do it. Here it is. Oh my god, I'm scared. Yes, a book with a strange female main character, Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. Hellbent is book number 2. Book 1 was 9,000. I read it, didn't like it. I found it weird, very purposeless, not explained well. Didn't love the book, but I bought book 2 because can you survive and resist this beautiful art? No, I couldn't either, so I got it. But I'm very excited about this one because I'm ready for a sequel to the first book, even though I didn't love it. So overall, I have the review for the first book in one of my videos. I will link it up here and down below. I might enjoy this one. Maybe coming down from an emotional high like this series, maybe it will be a less satisfying read, but I'm actually super excited to get into this one. As long as it's not Trouble Blood, we are all happy. Trouble Blood is gonna be the death of me. I read this one very, very fast. I loved it and I was really, really happy. And then up it came with this one. And I have to say the level dropped. And this was because the overall story here, whereas in the first book we had the mystery as main component, here the main component was the couple, Wrath and Emilia, and how their relationship was going to become. And I could see the twist like minute 2. I knew exactly how the story was going to progress, and in this case I found that contrary to other stories when maybe I do foresee it but I think that is subtle and quite well placed, here I just felt that the story wanted you to be stupid and to think that it was actually going to be how the protagonist Emilia thought it was gonna be, whereas it's absolutely not. And it's just annoying how much very evident signs of interest there are between the two, and they keep rejecting them. Especially she keeps being like, oh no, I don't like him, I don't like him, I don't like him, when she clearly does. Here the adventure was just interruptions within the story just to prevent the two having intercourse or doing stuff between one another. Because let me tell ya, in all of this beautiful book, it didn't happen. And it kept wanting you to believe that it was gonna be, but it wasn't and it wouldn't. And I am so so annoyed by it because, very unfortunately, I think that in this case, I was excited up until maybe page 100, and then it just fell for me. There's so much sexual commentary, super explicit, even between the other brothers, and it's just disgusting. And they excuse everything that happens on the fact that they are the embodiment of sin. And so that is prompting jokes and comments about them being their favorite sin or something like that. Oh my god, it felt toxic. It felt fake. It felt stalling. And they also describe him as a beast throughout. And she is like, oh yeah, I don't care. If he kills you, which he might, I won't say I didn't tell you, because this is how every single toxic relationship starts. You get mesmerized by this dude that is clearly troubled. We are supposed to think that it's because it's the only one. She's gonna be the perfect one. She's gonna be the different one. Which, like, what? And the mystery at the end was quite surprising, but unfortunately not in a good way. If this one was a standalone, it would have made a better impression. And the way that the new book started, I already got confused. Don't know, don't have super high hopes for it. What I'm gonna say is that the writing so far has been pretty nice, so it wasn't jarring. In other books, if the plot sucks and the writing sucks, this is not a book. This is a draft. Like, there have been some books that I've reviewed on the channel, links up here, that are just drafts. There is no way to go around it. They are drafts and they suck. Whereas in this case, it was intentional, which perhaps is even sadder, that it was intentional to make this one a full pornographic novel that wasn't pornographic, because there's no actual depiction of anything pornographic, but it wanted to be, and it wanted to be sexual, and it wanted to be intriguing, but it failed on all accounts, but is marketing as a fantasy. Make it a romance, make it a spicy thing, make it something different. Don't market it as a fantasy novel if this one is a fantasy and this one is a romance. Don't. I really hope that it's gonna improve. I really hope that we are gonna see more of what we saw in book 1, and just gonna call book 2 a missed opportunity. Today I'm coming at you with another book review. It came out as book review, but book review. I look like a clown. I didn't see it from this perspective. God, the makeup's so strong. Whatever. Let's go. Kingdom of the Fears. Out of the whole series, this wasn't the worst, okay? The worst one was definitely number 2. And what I really felt by reading the whole series was that number 2 felt like a completely different story. We had book number 1 that was fantasy, adventure, and basically zero flirtation, or maybe a bit of flirtation, but the kind of jokes that were a bit on the flirty side were not that bad. It was okay. Then we have book number 2 that was basically a smutty book, and that went through for the whole book, and the mystery was only there to remind you that that mystery was what she was investigating. I didn't feel that that mystery was as fundamental or important, because at the end of the day it didn't change much. But coming to book 3, and here is where there are some things that I don't like. I don't like the concept of the evil twin for the sake of having an evil twin. That evil twin is a trope that we can find in, for example, Friends, where we have Phoebe and Ursula. Ursula is the evil twin and Phoebe is the good twin. And we have it in many other fictional scenarios, but that for me didn't sit well, because I didn't understand why she needed to be so annoying and so mean for zero reasons. Zero reasons. Emilia is always being good to her sister, and she has the right to be super upset. I mean, she faked her own death just to be able to pursue her liberation as a goddess. And that for me was so annoying, because that made no sense, because at the end of the day she's actually not that bad, and why did we need to have all of that grumpiness and annoyingness in the first place? Just don't put it in. It didn't serve any purpose. Then we have Wrath, that at this point in the game has become a mat, like a yoga mat, that you would literally stomp on, do exercises on, and not really consider. And this is how he reacts. He is completely devoid of anything. At the beginning, I quite liked Wrath. He was, I don't know, quite funny. Second book, quite abusive, so I didn't like it at all, but it fit into the narrative of having the houses of sin. So you have this evil person that is evil for the sake of being evil, no reason for it, but we are in hell, so it makes sense that we have those kind of characters. And then now in book 3, he is super devoid of anything. He is super devoted to his wife, that is Emilia. He is super devoted to making her happy, never going against her. When they argue, it's only for a fraction, and then she's like, oh, I need to make my own choices and not listen to your opinion, bye. Which I don't like. This is not how a healthy marriage, healthy relationship does work. I've seen so many videos on science, and thinking that way is a selfish way. You just have to explain your reasons or tell your partner why you're doing the certain things. And sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And it pisses me off that it didn't in some occurrences, because I wanted it to be a better relationship. But also, that brings me to my next point, which is everything that goes against the concept of living in the houses of hell. We are in hell, okay? We have the goddesses of death and vengeance, and we have the princes of hell, which represent every sin. And we have this whole story of romance that ends up being so completely redemption filled that at the end we are not in hell. Where are we at this point? We are in a reality where there has been balance established, no one is mean to each other, there's no war, there's no meanness, Emilia wants to do the right thing, and why? Like, if you're talking about hell and having it no rules, as was kind of hinted at in book number 2, out of all of the things that they did that were completely unacceptable, I would have expected a book 3 where this trend went on and didn't redeem, because we are talking about hell. And it needs to be disliked, because if you like it, it's not hell anymore. You know what I mean? You cannot have a concept of full-on sin and no redemption and having to do the right thing. You cannot have redemption in that, can you? So for me that didn't sit right. But I will say that in this instance with book 3 we had a better plot. But what I didn't like at all was the change of tone of voice of the main character at all times. We ended up from having the naive one to a development into the sinful one that only wants coitus, so sexual relationships out of her husband, pure passion, pure sin. And then in book 3 we have the detective, and it is into such a detective fashion that is unbearable. She's constantly asking for questions. It's like if you read an Agatha Christie book with one of the detectives like Poirot or Miss Marple, whoever else, you will find the same exact tone. Having it in here is just weird. There were so many, let's call them twists and turns that needed to be shocking, but I found them incredibly convenient. There has been a whole part of their past that has been hidden from them, and they need to discover why. Her sister already knows why, and she has to discover everything on her own, which, I mean, if you are the sister, just tell her, you know. You might not have the best relationship in the world, but from what is hinted as well is they had a really good relationship when they lived as humans. So why not share your knowledge with your sister? And especially when she's in the loop of the whole houses of hell kind of thing, just share the knowledge and spare her all of the suffering, pain, the whole process of investigating the thing on her own. Just tell. The book would have been so much easier if she just told. In some book, there must be a reason why the characters that do know don't tell the characters that don't know. And in this book, for me, the reason wasn't strong enough, especially when it came to the whole things have been hidden and the mean people are the people that we thought were good kind of part. So, don't love it. And I'm sorry if I'm getting into a kind of Alabama accent, but I'm watching some clips from the young Sheldon and oh my god, it's getting to me, especially the brother George. It's so much fun. I love him. But overall, I think that the book deserved 3 stars because it was better than the previous one, and it was not as decent as the first one, but it was okay. But I just will say that as an overall, I do regret ultimately purchasing the books because they don't deserve praise or to be read. And especially don't deserve to be read by kids. Kids up until at least 15 years old, 16, 17 maybe, I wouldn't pick these books up because they are completely targeted to the wrong audience. And I wouldn't read it as an adult either because it's just not a good piece of literature, not even if you like more adventure driven smutty things. Like, we're all talking about Fourth Wing and how good that is, and compared to this one, god, I need to upgrade the rating because Fourth Wing is nowhere near this one, but in the best judgment possible. Fourth Wing at least has some adventure into it that is real, some positive points, it is not poorly written, so the writing is good, it's a really nicely written book. Compared to this one, it's a whole different thing. So please do not make my mistake and pick this up because you love the covers, because they are not worth your money. If you disagree with me, write down in the comments below why, because I would be interested to know how this book can appeal to anyone in real life. But overall, this is my opinion and I just will bring it forward. I won't be buying the prequel, and that's such a pity because the illustration, the cover design, the sprayed edges are really pretty. So if you liked this review or found it funny maybe, please do subscribe to the channel and like this video, and I really hope to see you all in the next one. Bye guys!